Hello all, back for a little honing. Today I'm working on a J. Koester's Sons razor. This is 11/16, so I'm not showing it to you. There we go. This is 11/16 hollow ground, and the main challenge with this razor, obviously square point. The main challenge with this razor is that all along the edge is corrosion. And I'll show you a microscope photo of the center of the razor right in this area right here. So I'll do that now. And as you can see, it's a bit torn up. You can even feel the corrosion if you run your fingers along the edge. The edge itself is not sharp. I can show that to you. Bouncing off the packing peanut. So the challenge for today is to determine how far back do I have to go to hit fresh metal. I think the razor has fresh metal. There's patina on the rest of the blade, but it appears to be surface patina. The worst area of corrosion is right on the edge. So my thinking is that as I remove material, I'll work back into fresh metal. That's also why I've taped the edge. I don't know how much wear how far I'm gonna have to go, and a long distance would be a lot of wear on the spine, and this spine already has pretty good wear on it. And so it's a little bit less optimal from a geometry standpoint to have the tape, to have the spine taped, but I think it's the best compromise. So I'm going to start with the 1000 grit and basically just get going here. See what we get. My plan is to use a pretty tight progression. Start with 1000 grit, work my way up to 2000 grit, 4000 grit, and then 8000 grit, so that I'm really making sure that the scratch pattern on the bevel surface is replaced at each stage. And then if everything looks clean at 8000 grit, I think I'll transfer to Coticule, do a finish on a Coticule, and then do a final finish on a Black Arkansas. And the reason for that is I've honed for this person before, and he thought he would like to try something different, and I think a classic arc edge, the Coticule arc edge is a pretty foundational thing to try. So that'll, and I think the last edge I did for him, I think was JNet. So to have the Coticule arc combination and a JNet combination is a good experience to have under your belt. If you're doing this, what you want to do is wear away on the bevels for a while, and then stop and take stock of where you are. And that's what I'm going to do. here in a minute. I think I'll wear the edge to the point where it's sharp and can break the packing peanut. But that doesn't mean the edge is ready to progress. It's ready to progress when metal is clean and free of corrosion. In terms of what I'm doing on the stone, I'm definitely biasing the edge. I'm taking advantage of the extra angle that the tape gives me to really get on top of the edge. The result of this sharpening, if I'm able to get back to good metal, will be a little bit higher geometry than I would have otherwise. But as I said before, that's just the trade-off I'm making. The alternative would be a significant amount of wear, maybe impinging on the blade, even though this is a hollow ground blade. Yeah, so I have a little bit of sharpness coming here. Not quite there yet. So let's continue. I feel like this side of the razor is a little bit more engaged than this side of the razor, so I'm going to put some effort into this side of the razor, a little bit more effort into this side of the razor as I bring the two bevels together. I can probably feel, let's see if I can tell by feel. So have I raised a burr? Yes, a little burr there. Tiniest of burrs there. And burr, yes, all along the edge, very tiny. Do I have a burr remaining here? No. So I'm at the point where I'm flipping a burr here. Knife sharpening term. It sounds sounds like an insult, unless you know what I'm talking about. Let's see if what I've done to the condition of the edge by feel. Okay, I'm feeling a little burr there. Not anything that's significant there, but here. And why I'm concerned about this is with some steels, this is made in England. I'm sorry, made in Germany, but not Solingen. This is, or maybe it is Solingen, but it's a place that I've never heard of. What it says here is Ohligs, Ohligs, Germany. So I don't know what that means. I still have burr. And my flipping burr back and forth. What we want is to remove that burr from the edge so that I can, when I look at the steel, I want to be looking at steel that's well attached to the that's really a part of the blade, not something that's just barely hanging on. Starting to feel pretty good. Getting there for sharpness, but not super duper. This razor lays flat on this side. On this side, it comes up a little bit right here at the toe. What I've been doing is as I've been going down, you can't see it from the camera view here, but what I've been doing is coming up a little to capture the toe as I've been doing my half strokes. All right, let's see what our situation is with the edge. Are we at least at a clean edge? That's clean. That's clean. All right, so there's a tiny bit of burr there. Let's see how we're doing sharpness wise. Barely. We're okay. So that there it cut through. We're almost there on sharpness, so I'm going to do some more. I'm continuing to do more on this side until it starts to feel the same way. I'm going to do a video on how to sharpen your first razor, and this kind of thing will not be in that video. That's something you're not going to do on your first try, but you can certainly do after a while. All right, let's see if we've gotten to a good point here. The look of the edge is pretty clean. I'm looking in the light before I could definitely see the corrosion. The feel of the edge is nice and clean. I got some burr over here, which I don't like, so we're going to clean off that burr. When you have these oddball edge conditions, this is where all the work goes in. If you get things sorted, on the very first stone, on the stone that can do the most work. So this is a 1000 grit. It's a coarse stone from razor perspective. It can remove a lot of material, and if you get things sorted on this stone, then the rest of the work that you're going to do is in establishing new scratch patterns on the bevel and refining the geometry of the apex. The geometry of the bevels is defined here, but the geometry of the apex is refined as you go from this grit at 1,000 to finer and finer grits. The other thing with scratch pattern is scratch pattern extends onto the apex. So the scratch pattern you see on the bevel is the scratch pattern you feel. Okay, so we are now pushing into the packing peanut with appropriate sound and force. I mean, I'm not pushing hard, but it's popping a little bit, which is exactly what I expect. So we're done. I'm going to go take a look at this, and so I'll pause the video here, go take a look, show you the image, and then come back. All right, this is the 2K Shapton glass. You just saw the look of the edge. That's consistent across the whole edge. So I feel as if we're on the road here to recovery. I'm going to use the 2K to do a little bit more refinement on the edge that the 1K created. Going to replace the 1K scratch pattern with the 2K scratch pattern all the way through the apex, and we're doing this in preparation for the 4K. This is more stones, but less work. So that's why we're doing it this way. There are a few areas on the heel that need work, which is not surprising to me. I did get to the heel, but I was mostly treating the blade, the entire blade on the 1K. Now that I'm on the 2K, I'm going to start treating the blade more in sections to ensure that I bring up each section of the blade so that I bring up each section of the blade equal to the others. So I want to bring them up so that I have consistency. That was the word I was looking for. Consistency across the edge. This is the side that comes up, so I've been pressing down and lifting up a little bit. I'm probably, when I do my how to hone your first razor, I'll probably teach that using one hand but adding another to help even pressure out. I think for most people it's a little easier to have that second hand out there. I mean, you can certainly learn to do this, but I think it's a lot easier with two hands when you're starting. Obviously, you can't use two hands if you hand hold. Let's see how we're doing. I think I'm going to go with new tape. The tape is actually looking pretty good. Let's see here. See if I can show you tape. Maybe this is helpful. Yeah, I don't know. The tape is looking pretty good. You can take my word for it, but I think I'm gonna replace it after the stone. Okay, very good. We have less effort to push into the packing peanut. So I think we're going to replace the tape and go to the 4K. So I'm going to, you don't need to watch me do all that. I'll come back when I'm done. Well, right, we are now on the Shapton Glass 4000 grit stone, which I always call 4K. New tape. So we're going to refine on this stone. And then the next photo that we're going to take will be at 8K to see what we've done. Goal here is again to replace the scratch pattern, the 2000 grit scratch pattern, with a 4000 grit scratch pattern. Refine the apex just a little bit. And by the way, the whole blade gets shorter at every step. So when you grind away on the sides of the blade does get shorter, even at the finer grit, even with the finer grit stones, it gets a little shorter. So if you have small chips in the edge, you don't necessarily need to remove those by killing the edge. If they're small enough, they'll come out just through the natural course of using the stone. Now, if they're larger, then you probably have a problem going into that stone. You don't want chips. You want to remove. You want to get the blade, as I tried to do. You want to get the blade in the correct condition on the coarsest stone that you use. If that condition deteriorates, then you most likely have a problem with the steel. I have a new camera position that I keep hitting with my head. I'm gonna have to stand up a little straighter. All right, let's see how we're doing. Now at this point I should have less pressure to cut the packing peanut. Almost soundless, less pressure, and even from heel to toe. So I don't feel like that's really improved much. There we go. That part of the packing peanut is good. Let's try this part. All right, I think I'm going to do a little more here. A few more passes, long video. mainly because I'm taking you through this in real time. This is how I approach this stuff. I take my time. I do my assessment, as you saw, or as I told you about. I didn't really show you the assessment, but I told you about it. And then I'm evaluating, I'm progressing by evaluating the condition of the razor. And what I'm looking at are all the bits of information that I can get by feeling the edge, looking at the edge, testing the edge for sharpness, and also using the microscope. I use this microscope because I have it. You can easily get away with doing what I'm doing with a loop, or if this is the age of inexpensive digital microscopes, you can certainly get away with, you know, a $30 or $40 microscope that does 50x magnification optical. The microscope I'm using will do from 700 to 950 magnification, and I'm using it these days. I was using it at 940. I'm backed off to 800, which is right in the middle of the, hopefully the sweet spot of the optical range. And I have yet to calibrate it. My microscope can be calibrated so I can measure distances. What I'm doing here, going slowly, is I'm trying to see where the edge feels. The edge should feel the same against the stone. It feels a little different on this side. I don't know whether that's a consequence of just a slight bit of asymmetry, or whether that's a problem that has to get addressed. So let's do another test, see what we did. Oh yeah, we moved that edge forward. That's where I think the edge should be. It's now pretty soundless going into the packing peanut. It's not 100% perfect, but in terms of sound, but it's definitely, wow. This area of the peanut's pretty darn tough. But the rest of the peanut is taking about what it should. I'm going to go look at this instead of skipping to the, normally I would wait for the 8K, but I'm going to go take a look at this. So you just saw a picture of the edge at the center, right here on this side. At 4K, that edge is consistent from heel to toe, which is just what we want. And something to note is the scratch pattern, how even it is all the way to the apex. That's also exactly what we're after. So I'm moving to the 8,000 grit stone, 8K in my parlance, and we're going to try to refine further. Yeah, we're going to try to refine further. I have on each of these stones, I've already raised. On this stone and the previous stones, prior to starting, I raised a slurry on the stone. In this case, it's a lighter slurry. And that's a personal preference. You don't need a slurry on synthetic stones, but it does help to keep the stone clean. It helps to keep metal coming that is coming off of the blade from embedding into the stone itself. And that's not the end of the world if it happens. I have a little bit of it on this stone. But metal that's embedded in the stone is blocking abrasive from the stone from coming out and doing its job. I'm using only enough pressure to let the stone do its work here. I'm not leaning on it at all. I leaned on it a little bit on the 1K, but since that time, because the images, the edge images are so good, I've just left it alone. I've just let the abrasive on the stone do the work. And that's also something I can monitor, right? If sharpness isn't coming up quick enough, or if the microscope or loop, if the view of the edge doesn't look like it's progressing, well, I can use more pressure. But this steel is pretty soft, and I can remove it pretty easily, so there's no real need for extra pressure. I can just let the stone do its work. I should have mentioned, I've been watching, especially now that I have very light slurry. I'm watching the way the blade, the way the slurry moves over the edge. We call that undercut, and that is looking very nice, has been looking very nice. So I'm going to test here. Oh, that's silent. That's exactly what we want to see. That's literally right there, a little bit more effort. I'm only caring about the first millimeter or so of the edge, and I want the amount of pressure to break the skin to be the same, and it is. So that's, the 8K is looking great. I feel like this steel will benefit from, or will do well with a Coticule edge. So I'm going to pause and set that up, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I have a La Petite Blanche here. This is the one that I purchased from Easy Hone on eBay. Very nice guy. For a change, now I have a slurry stone here, but I think for a change I'm going to raise a very light diamond plate slurry. The edge is already in good shape on the 8K. And we're gonna, the last image you saw was of the 4K scratch pattern, and the next image you're going to see is of the pattern off of this Coticule. Put a little water here. So this is going to knock back the edge a little bit. As you can see, the stone is thinner than the razor, so I'm just working the razor across the stone so that I can work the entire edge. And the goal here is to really imprint the Coticule scratch pattern onto the bevel and subsequently onto the apex, because you're going to get what you'll feel is the contribution of this scratch pattern and the scratch pattern from the Black Arkansas. Okay, we're going to dilute this puppy. I'm diluting it a lot. Dilute some more. And the reason for this is I already have an excellent edge performance-wise, and so I'm not too concerned. I'm concerned more about scratch pattern here than refinement, so I'm quickly moving myself down to the surface of the stone. And that I'm doing based on feel. We'll see if that works out or not. The blade is certainly performing well on this stone. I'm just coming down and letting the blade move across the stone. I'm getting terrific undercut. And I'm going to test this. Okay, let's test this. See how we are. We want to be very sharp at this point. We want the edge to look really good, testing wise, and it is. Okay, so this is good. This is what I call push into the cloud. Yeah, we're kind of we're almost into the push into the cloud area here. I could push this on this stone and get it further. But I'm going to be going to an Arkansas anyway, so I'm going to show you what this looks like under the microscope. You'll see a significant difference between this scratch pattern and the previous one, and then we'll move to the Black Arkansas. So you just saw what the edge looks like. Before I bring it to the Coticule, I'm just going to do a few laps on water here. I'm sorry, before I bring it to the Black Arkansas, I'm going to do a few laps on the Coticule using water just to get a little bit more out of this edge. And again, the reason for that is that the Black Arkansas is not a quick stone. I don't know. Am I? Yeah, I'm getting in the frame there. Sorry about that. The edge condition that you saw looks good the whole way through, from heel to toe. Okay. Make sure we haven't moved it backwards, which can happen. No, that's moved it forwards. So that's a happy accident. So let me move this off. And we'll bring in the Black Arkansas. I have an arrow which tells me which way is up on this stone. Maybe spin it. There we go. Okay, and the goal here is actually to use oil, so I want to get the water off of it. Okay. There we are. There's the oil. Okay, and this is this is really the secret sauce to an arc edge, is to have it well prepared, because this Novaculate is really slow. The surface of this stone is not burnished. It's polished with well, I think the last thing I used on this stone was actually Nagura. I think I used a Coma Nagura as a way to prepare this on the stone, and that will have prepared the surface. But normally what I do with arcs is I use silicon graphite sandpaper, backed by a flat surface like the back of a flattening stone, and I'll go from something like 200 grit to up to maybe 1,000 grit silicon sandpaper, and that I have silicon sandpaper up to 4,000 grit, I think, and that gives the surface a little bit of texture, so that you're not really you're getting something of the stone. That's my preference for these. Now I've got undercut for days here. This is really looking quite good. As I said, Arkansas are slow, and so you can typically do as much as you want on them. purposes of this video. I may come back later and do some more, but there's only so much of this you can watch, and this has been a long video. I've done a lot of talking. It's questionable as to what I say has any value. I'll leave that up to you. Hang on, I'm going to just pause the video. I'll be right back. I've just shown you what the edge looks like coming off of the black Arkansas. Now let's test it, see how we're doing. And that is push into the cloud softness results. So we haven't stropped yet. So that's excellent results. Let's go strop this thing and I'll be right back. All right, I have just shown you a microscope image of this blade at the center after stropping 25 laps on fire hose linen and then 50 laps here on this steer hide leather. Let's do a final test to see how the edge is doing. That, my friends, is pushing into the cloud everywhere. That's zero effort, just falling in. That's what we want to see. Okay, that's surprisingly rewarding, pushing into polystyrene. Thank you so much for watching. I hope hope it hasn't been too boring. It's been fun for me. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.